Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. I want to ask you or talk through something. I guess I'm not asking, but I'd like people who have moved to different countries to comment. Hopefully you will. I've done the channel for a little over 5 years, and along the way, because most of the channel dealt with a journey in life, moving to and living in Portugal, people were reaching out and asking questions about the how-tos of Portugal. And that was my channel. It was mostly how to do this, how to do that, how to set up this, how to connect that. And along the way, numerous people were reaching out going, hey, we have a 3-year plan, we have a 5-year plan, we have a 10-year plan to get there or to get to some other country. Hopefully all these how-tos will help us do that. And I didn't ask the question, in 2020, 2021 of, what's holding you back. But I do want to ask you all right now, as we're about a minute into this, is did anything hold you back from making the move? And, more of the why. And as I say that, there are some people that reached out early on with the channel that now 5 years later, they're saying, hey, we're finally making a move, and thank you for all the information. We're not moving to Portugal, we're going someplace else, or maybe we are. And it just caught me when I was messaging with them going, why didn't you move sooner? And it was the stars had to be aligned. We had to make sure our finances were in order. Our retirement, we wanted to wait for a certain date to be able to do certain things. Maybe something was happening with family. We were waiting for that to get resolved. But ultimately, something that wasn't really thought of was their health. And, as you're watching this video, I guess common sense would say, this is the healthiest that you're going to be, because a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, things may happen, especially as we get older, and we may not be here 5 years or 10 years from now. So the whole what's holding you back. And the whole point of making this video was someone reached out over the weekend, a viewer of the channel, and said, hey, somebody that used to comment often passed away. And then I was doing some research and messaging, and then also found that someone that was a subscriber about 2 months ago had passed away. And in both cases, they were early on. I got to be introduced to them in late 2020, early 2021, and go back and forth over the years with messaging and comments. And in both cases, they were, we have to, our finances, in one case we're still working. And over the years, I never thought to ask, but as we were moving on and trying to figure out what we were doing next in our journey, I did ask, what's holding you back? Why not do it? Because if you're worried about housing or market conditions or cost of living, politics, social issues, those could change at any time in any country. With different elections and different things going on, that if you're waiting for the perfect time, you're probably never going to move, because you may never come across what you would deem as a perfect time. But all along the way, your health is something that's just it's ticking away, meaning I hope that everyone is healthy until they're in their 80s or 90s, but the reality is most of us are not. That even in the 40s or 50s, 60s, early 70s, things start happening health-wise to you or maybe your spouse that may prevent you from making the move that you were going to do. And so I guess some of the cost benefit is it worth doing it now, this year, knowing you may only have 3 to 5 years there, and then something happens and then you may move back, or you may stay. Or let's not assume your health's going to go down the tubes right away. You're going to be there for 10 or 20 years. Why not start that now and do it now versus waiting? I can tell you specifically from our time in Portugal, there are people that have been waiting since I started this channel for the housing bubble to burst. Hasn't burst, so now that's several years later. Cost of living is creeping up in a lot of areas across the world, and so that's a concern. Political issue, elections and social things going on, those can constantly evolve. But I would recommend, and I hope those of you that comment would concur with this. If you're looking to move someplace, do the diligence and make the honest effort to see how fast can we get there. Legitimately, how can we do it? Versus, I want to wait for the right conditions and then I'm going to consider it. It means talking to an accountant or someone that's a financial advisor to try to make sure that you have your ducks aligned. Often I ran into people that retired, or they were retired in their late 40s and 50s, and I was jealous because I'm going, how did you do that? I mean, how did you must have millions of dollars in the bank or something. Wasn't the case. They had definitely a nest egg, but they did a lot of diligence, and they talked to a lot of people, financial people, to see, well, if you move to this country and you live this way, that the money should last for a long time. So it is something that I would heartily recommend and consider. Getting ready actually to just go and step into a trust seminar and speak to some people and listen to what some of the stories are for that. And it just got me thinking, especially hearing about two people that have watched some videos that are passed away, that strike while the iron's hot, and make the most of what you have for life in your time here. If you really want to go to another country, find any way possible to get there that's reasonable. If immigration is a roadblock and it's going to take years, maybe look at a country that can get in a little sooner, a little easier, not as much hassle. But moving while your health is still with you. And I'm going to leave with this. So we lived in Portugal, as you all know this, 5 years. There's probably 40 to 50 people that we're still connected with. They all have health issues. and it's not because of the move to Portugal. I don't want those comments, because that's not the case at all. But they're all older. So they're going to have stuff happen. We're all going to have the wheels starting to fall off at some point in our life. And so they're trying to, and some of them had a few really excellent years before things kind of got sideways. But as we hear and talk to more people, there's just more, well, I just went in for this procedure, or this is the fourth procedure in the last 2 years for something. And it's not routine, it's major stuff that in almost every case, not every case, but almost every case, they'd say, gosh, we could have moved a couple years earlier. We could have moved as early as 5 years earlier because we had it financially and set. We just chose not to. And they're looking back, kind of having some regrets, going, we should have done it sooner. And so that's where I'm kind of wanting to wrap up the video here is, if you have the opportunity and you are set on moving to another country, find every available means to try to do that as soon as possible, so that way you can enjoy as much of the time in that new place before potentially some health issues start to creep up and get you. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Enjoy your travels.